So today we're going to upgrade your salsa. We're going to make a variation of a tomatillo-chipotle salsa. Some of these ingredients might not be very familiar to you in their fresh form especially, so we're going to take a closer look at some of them. The main ingredient in our salsa is tomatillos. Now, tomatillos, they look like small little green tomatoes, but they don't look like that when you first get them. They have these papery husks on them. What you'll have to do is they should peel right off, and then you're going to have to wash them because they're kind of sticky. Well, they're very sticky. So you'll have to wash them really good under running water in the sink. You'll need 1 pound of tomatillos. You could buy them in a can in the Mexican section, but fresh have a better flavor. Next thing you're going to need is 1 poblano pepper. They're not very hot. They're the kind you use for chili rellenos. You're going to want to wash these also, and when you cut them open, take the seeds out, especially if you don't like your salsa too hot. 1 of these. And then these are serrano peppers. They look like jalapenos, but they're smaller and they have more of a kick. You'll need at least 2. These you cut the tops off after you wash them, leave the seeds in. We have a third kind of pepper to add, chipoltes. These will come in a can in the Mexican section in adobo sauce. You're just going to need a couple of them. So I hope you like this recipe and you make it lots and lots. Otherwise, check out our other recipes for different ways to use it. You'll need 1 onion. You can use half of it if you want. We don't like lots of raw onion around here, so we use half of 1. You'll need 2 cloves of garlic. Fresh garlic looks like this. The cloves you peel off of the whole head. I'll show you how to peel those later. You'll also for sure need some lime and cilantro. In my opinion, this makes anything taste Mexican. Lime and cilantro. Some people don't like cilantro, and I suppose you could use parsley if you had to, but try the cilantro first. Make sure you wash it well, and we'll chop up some. You can adjust how much you add to it, but this together will make it really fabulous. You'll need some salt. I like to use freshly ground salt. We get this at Trader Joe's. You'll also need cumin, ground cumin. You'll find it in the spice section. Ground coriander, which is the seeds of the cilantro plant. You'll also find that in the spice section. If it's too spicy, you can add a little bit of agave nectar to it. And you'll also want a little bit of vinegar. I use rice vinegar because that's what I've got today, but you could use white vinegar if you wanted to. All right, let's get chopping. So how'd your chopping go? You got all 9 fingers? Oops, I mean 10. All right, now the next part's super easy. We just mix it all in. We have our 1 pound of chopped tomatillos, and if you can't find them, you can substitute green tomatoes or red tomatoes, but it will change the flavor of your salsa slightly. So 1 pound finely chopped tomatillos, 1 poblano chili seeded and chopped, and it can take a while to chop it, so if you've got helpers, use them. This was 2 serrano peppers. If you can't find them, you can use jalapenos. Even the jarred jalapenos, just drain them really well. 1 clove of garlic chopped. And if you don't know how to do any of these different techniques, check out our tips and techniques section for using a knife and a mezzaluna and how to chop certain things. This is 1/2 of our red onion, finely chopped. Two chipotle chilies. Make sure you keep some of that adobo in there. Again, chop everything as small as you can. 1/2 of a bunch of cilantro. We used a mezzaluna to do most of our chopping of the smaller items. Okay, stir that up and mix it around a little bit, but you got a few things left to add. Doesn't that look great? Juice of 1 lime is what our recipe calls for. Sometimes you might need a little more, so we juiced up 2 of them. This is called a reamer, and the bottom part catches the seeds, so you're left with nothing but juice. If you're using bottled lime, you'll probably need about a tablespoon. Keep a little bit extra handy though, you might want it. I don't normally cook with salt, but in this case it helps draw the fluids out of our different vegetables and makes a nice sauce if it lasts that long. So it calls for a teaspoon. Generally though, I use a lot less than a teaspoon, more like a quarter to a half. It doesn't take a lot to do the job. Besides, if you're using chips in it, they'll have their own salt. We have our ground cumin. You can use about a teaspoon of that. This house we like spice, so I use this is a half teaspoon measure. I'm using about a teaspoon and a half, but they were heaping teaspoons. Coriander, ground coriander seed. Make sure it's ground because the other ones are like little balls, which could make an interesting texture. You need about half as much of the coriander as you did the cumin. So if you used 1 teaspoon of cumin, use half a teaspoon of cilantro. You can adjust all of these flavors later. We have our vinegar. You just need a splash. It's not even enough to measure, really. And our agave nectar can help tone down the spiciness a little bit and also helps those flavors blend. I just swirl a little bit in there, less than a teaspoon. It's not worth measuring because you're just going to mix it all up anyhow. Now, mix and mix and mix. And this is where the fun part, the reward for all your helpers comes in. I need a taste tester. Got any volunteers?
Sure.
Okay, grab yourself a chip. Bring the whole bag. You like using donkey chips, by the way. You can find them up at Whole Foods. Go ahead. Okay, this recipe makes a lot of salsa. You're going to have 4 cups of it. So if you're not planning on having a Mexican-themed party, I hope you've got some jars and containers handy. Or that your family really loves salsa. At our house, it doesn't last very long, so we like to mix it with this. This is Organicville medium salsa. It's gluten-free, it's made with agave nectar, and it's all organic. We use about a 1/4 cup of this to 3/4 cups of our tomatillo salsa. It helps give it a little bit of sauciness because ours doesn't sit around long enough to get much of a sauce. They eat it too fast. And what they like to eat it with is donkey chips. The company says that they use non-GMO corn. They're a nice thick chip, so they're not going to fall apart in your salsa. You'll be able to get a whole load of it on your chip to your mouth. We find these up at Whole Foods. You can get them salted or unsalted. You are not going to need a flavored chip. You might not want one ever again. Enjoy!